It is my pleasure to be a part of the 6th annual Space Policy Dialogue at ORF Kalpana Chawla, and I'm Dr. Siddharth Pandey. And with me, I have the honor of sharing space with Dr. B.N. Suresh, sir. And I'll just briefly take a moment to introduce sir as well. So Dr. P.N. Suresh, sir, Padma Bhushan and Padma Shri awardee, is an aerospace scientist. Is the Chancellor of Indian Institute of Space Science and Technology at Thiruvananthapuram. He was Director of Vikram Sarabhai Space Center during the period of 2003 to 2007. He is known for his contribution to space capsule recovery experiments. He retired from IIST in November 2010. And presently, he is also serving as the Vikram Sarabhai Distinguished Professor at ISRO headquarters since November 2010. He also served as Distinguished Professor at IIT Mumbai and MIT Manipal. Dr. Suresh has been honored with several awards for his significant contributions in the field of space technology. And also, might I add, I was really glad to read about his insights in some of the ISRO books as well that he has been a part of. So, my warm welcome to you, Dr. B.N. Suresh, sir.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And we will spend the next 20 minutes just going through some topics that are of relevance. So much has happened over the last couple of years in this COVID scenario. There has been so many things that our country has gone through. But at the same time, we have seen ISRO also internally kind of revamp and have a new, you can say, era opening up with several announcements that actually came through last year. So we are seeing the Indian space sector growing and taking shape rapidly. ISRO has made several announcements, new institutions such as InSpace, NSIL, and the recently announced Indian Space Association. There was the announcement about the Space Activities Bill. And there's a general sense of welcome and a warm welcome for external people outside of the government. Invitations to foreign partners and to new space startup companies as well. So to summarize all of these new developments, sir, my question to you is, how do you think all of this is going to play out for India in the next coming, say, 5 years?
Thank you, Siddharth. And also let me thank the organizers for giving me such an excellent opportunity to interact with some of your questions. It's a very relevant question at this point of time, and you know that ISRO had a humble beginning way back in 1970s, and in the last 5 decades plus has made tremendous strides in several areas, be it launch vehicle development, be it spacecraft development, or applications, a variety of applications which are catering to a range of activities which are needed for the economic development of the country. And also you can see with all this, there is a tremendous surge in activities, particularly in terms of space-based applications and services. So with this ever-increasing demand, we felt at the Department of Space, as well government felt that DOS alone cannot cater to this kind of increasing demand, and at the same time it is not wise to go on sort of taking up more and more human resources in government setup. So at the same time you can see that there is a tremendous surge in industries too. Not that industries are not participating, they have been participating in ISRO's programs, particularly in fabrication, manufacturing, creating aggregates. I think we have interaction with more than 400, 500 industries all across the country in different activities. So you can see that there is a manifold activities increase. And also you really look at it in the last 1 decade, industries also are willing to really put their money into space program and try to take a bigger role as the space activities are expanding. And also the what we term as the Chandrayaan and Mangalyaan has kindled the interest of our youngsters, and they are also more and more attracted to the various space related activities. There are a number of startups, I can tell you, last 1 decade, and very many of them I am associated in some form or other with these youngsters. So, in fact, we need to encourage them and also sort of bring private participation. How do we enhance that? Many times it is sort of stated as the privatization of space. In my opinion, it's not privatization of the space. It is the enhancing the private participation in space activities. So, considering all this, the government thought it is appropriate to create the right forum, that is what is termed as the Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Center, in space for short. The mandate for them was to really assess the needs and demands of private agencies and also demands that are coming from space, try to sort of put them together and also enable and empower them with the support of ISRO. That is the whole idea. So, in fact, if you really look at it, in space is created such that not only they will facilitate the private agencies to have access to space, and they are not only facilitator but also they are sort of given a mandate of the regulator. You can see that, and also reorient today what we term as the space activities are supply driven to the demand driven model. That is very important because then only we can make use of the optimum utilization of the space assets. You may know that today we have more than 50 space assets active in the orbit, be it communication, be it remote sensing, navigation, space science, and a host of other spacecraft. But then, how do we really harness and put it for the best use of the country's benefit? That is important. While these are the things that we are looking, I would like to mention that the global space economy today, it is estimated something like equivalent to 350 billion US dollars. And you really look at it, the contribution of particularly Indian industries is less than 2%. So while the country is progressing forward and looking for something like a 5 trillion economy in a couple of years, I think we have to expand ourselves and take a big share of this cake. And how do we do that? And I also want to tell you that the contribution of the launch vehicle or spacecraft is only 2% of this big money what I mentioned. But the maximum comes from the satellite-based services and ground-based systems. So this is where industry can play a dominant role, and InSpace is envisaged to meet this kind of demand and enable them. When I say enable them, you see the private operators all of a sudden they can't establish or duplicate the facilities what ISRO has. That's why government thought it is only prudent that we allow them to come and use our facilities to start with and help them gradually build their own facilities. Even for example, launch, I don't think you can go and launch anywhere you like. There are certain constraints like safety. Then also we need to have a launch from due east. So that's how we have chosen this Sriharikota as the big Indian spaceport in India. So what we are telling them is you can come and use our facilities initially, and later on you want to build, we give the space because that is the only spaceport one can utilize from India and take it forward. So these are all empowering activities that InSpace is supposed to do, and already they started working. Now coming to NCL, you asked yet another question. It's a commercial arm of the space. What is their mandate is basically, they have to productionize the launch vehicle, the spacecraft today. If you really look back last 4 or 5 years, we are immersed in producing activities. So although we are called Indian Space Research Organization, our youngsters, our young engineers and scientists, they are unable to concentrate on the research activities required for advanced activities. It's just not possible. So why not we bring industry and enable them? And they are capable of doing that. So that's where NCL is trying very hard. For example, production like PSLV, the manufacture, assemble, integrate, and even launch. Initially, maybe with the help of ISRO, and gradually they will take over. Also, you can see that there is mentioned about number of services and ground systems. So marketing of all these services, be it launch services, space-based application, transponder leasing, remote sensing, a variety of applications, mission support, all this will be done actually. Also enable them to build satellite in a small scale and then gradually increase it. And also they have to build the facilities. That is the NCL. While we have all these things, once you sort of invite the private agencies, it is also very essential for us to put the do's and don'ts in terms of policies. That's why we are trying to formulate various policies which has to go through scrutiny at large and then get the approval by the appropriate authorities. All the things are going simultaneously so that when they want to really go in a big way in the space activities, they are enabled and they go as per the rules and regulations of the country and we adhere to that. And this is the whole purpose. I can tell you that this has come right in time because 5 decades of Sarabhai's vision has been met with. The activities are expanding. Globally, also space activities are expanding, and we have to be part of the global space activities, not only meeting the country's needs, but also the aspirations of the entire 1.3 billion people.
Thank you, sir, for those opening remarks. So essentially, ISRO needs to be freed up, and we have to at the same time empower the upcoming private sector to be able to. So ISRO is allowed to kind of focus on some of the larger goals of heading out. So is there a kind of a timeline that is seen within which we'd like to see the private, private players kind of become independent?
Now, the space activities are very tough. That is one of the reasons it's always termed as the rocket science. You may be aware it's really one end of the spectrum of the complexity because you cannot afford to have any error, any mistake of any kind. We generally term it as the zero defect system for the simple reason that we just cannot allow any small error anywhere, be it hardware, be it software, be it manufacturing, any of them. So I think timeline is very difficult for us to clearly say when they become totally independent because this transfer of knowledge, what has been accumulated over 5 decades, to bring it to the same level, it would possibly take much larger time, number one. Number two, also how they are willing really to invest their resources to reach a level where we have reached. I don't think we can go on really supporting them on a continuous basis. But I think in real estimates, maybe something like 5 to 10 years it would take to reach a level where we can say for sure that they would take the independent role. So the bottom line is that they have to make sure that if they face 1 or 2 failures, they are all very very expensive items and systems. Then it becomes very difficult for us to move forward. So time, in my opinion, should not be the major criterion. The criterion should be the success. I think success only takes space activities further. If you really look at globally, only countries who have been recording success after success, they have prospered. But there are countries where they face failure after failure and they have to abandon the program. I think we should not get into the later stage. That is the crux of the issue.
Thank you, sir. That's very much in line with, I think, what the attitude with which we have been approaching space, and that attitude should not change because there are certain risks that come with space technology that just cannot be ignored. So my next question is to you from an academic and support of academia towards research and development activities point of view. Now, sir, as the Honorable Chancellor of IIST, what are your thoughts on academia in India that is beyond the traditional IITs and IIScs? As you're aware, we have over 10,000 engineering colleges in our country, and of course, the newly formed IIST is also, coming up so well. So, how can they play a stronger role in supporting the space research and beyond some of the existing programs that ISRO has, such as the Respond and the Space Technology Cells and the workshops? Are there ways in which they can be a lot more intimately involved in the R&D activities at the low technology level as well as all the way up to the high technology level?
Well, it's a very, very good question in my opinion because, you really look at it anywhere you go with the R&D and academia, this academia and R&D interaction, in my opinion, is the most talked subject but least acted. So that is the experience not only in India but all over the globe. But then, ISRO, we are really blessed because It was Professor Satish Dhawan who took over as the chairman ISRO way back in 1972, visualized this particular area, and he brought a very strong bond between academia and ISRO somewhere in 1970 itself, and he was the person who was able to create this what you termed as the academy program. We termed it as respond program, where they carry out research in several areas, and not only we involved IITs and ISC, we also brought in the interested prominent universities also into the fold, and we have a number of what we term as the space technology cells, so that the whole activity becomes very smooth between two organizations, the academic institution on one side and then ISRO on the other side, and there is a management structure which is available, so that it's easy for them to undertake the R&D programs. The intention of ISRO is, I think, we should have very many extended wings of research in academia, where it could be on combustion, it could be on control, it could be on aerodynamics, it could be on space science. Wherever the strength is there in any of the academic institutions, how do we harness? How do we really take it to better use of ISRO as well as better use of their own organization? Towards that, in the last couple of years, what we have done is we are trying to expand. For example, we have created in the recent past the regional academic centers for space, RACs we call, and in fact, as a part of the centenary celebrations of Vikram Sarabhai, we created across the country in different places like Jaipur, Guwahati, Kurukshetra, Surathkal, Varanasi, and in fact, experimentation is going on, and idea is to sort of multiply this activity in the coming years, so that not only will become an ambassador for capacity building, awareness creation, and spur the R&D, particularly in space, as you mentioned, in the coming years. That's one thing. Then also, the I mentioned earlier that there is a tremendous interest in the space activities by youngsters. Wherever you go, in fact, the moment you say you are from space, they keep on asking several questions. They want to get in, they want to carry on the cutting edge technology research, all that. So, towards that, what ISRO has done is they have created Space Technology Incubation Center. This is basically to enable young academia to realize their innovative ideas and research aptitude, so that they develop the more and more space system, they understand it very well. So we have already set up, we took NIT as an example and as a case study, and 5 NITs, we have 6 NITs we have picked up in from again across the country: Agartala, Jalandhar, Trichy, Bhopal, Nagpur, and Rourkela. We have established these incubation center and enable them, the youngsters, specify the problems, hold their hands. If necessary, they can come and visit ISRO centers. This kind of cross fertilization of ideas they have been done. And of course, we also are trying to spread it across the country, and space research we have enabled in quite a few places. For example, in Pune University we have done, and in order to grow this culture, we have created what you term as the Satish Dhawan Center for Space Science at University of Jammu very recently. And also, that today electronic fabrication is one thing which is holding us in space. How do we really? Otherwise, we are all importing this. Question is, how do we enhance in the country? So, apart from going to the various academic institutions like IT and all that, we have tried to create a separate research group at the Indian Institute of Science, where they have a Center for Nanoscience and Engineering. They have excelled in that. So there are several such initiatives which have been brought, and I must say that it was again vision of Professor Satish Dhawan. He started way back in 17, nourished it, has grown, and today it has really grown very well. I think it has become very easy for them to participate in our programs, projects, in the review system, and we go and work in the laboratories. So it is, I think, beautifully interwoven between the various institutions in academia and ISRO. We are indeed highly benefited, and we want to utilize more and more in the coming years.
Thank you so much, sir, for that detailed response. And we're very, very encouraged to hear of these new programs as well. And hope we find new ways for young student researchers to get involved in more and more relevant ISRO projects. So, sir, my last question to you is with regards to now as we move out of slowly, steadily move out of the COVID, wake, and we are also, of course, cautiously preparing for a third wave. But how has the priority list for ISRO for its upcoming missions, have there been any changes? And I'd like to hear your comments on the upcoming Gaganyaan program, as well as the other exploration projects such as Chandrayaan, Shukrayaan, and Aditya mission. And just an additional question to that is there ways for what we term as NGPEs or non-government private entities to participate in some of the goal setting and roadmap building, to have a stake at that table, to kind of help ISRO build a strategic roadmap for space exploration?
Well, I think we have a fairly good number of ambitious space missions. They are all lined up in the coming years. In fact, I mentioned you earlier that the demand is so high, our hands are full. We are unable to cater to these kind of advanced activities which demand higher research and development component, because we were sort of tied up with the production, and that's why we are trying to take it out and go for industries and enable our youngsters to concentrate these advanced mission. And if you really ask me, there are a number of them. Just to name a few, I think as you said rightly, a mission to observe the sun is Aditya, which is work is going on. But again, we are not able to progress because of the demands from various other ongoing programs. Then, of course, mission to Venus. Then, of course, human space flight. We should have had one unmanned flight by now, but then this COVID-19 has really slowed it down. But still, work is going on in full speed. Similarly, the landing on the moon in Chandrayaan 2 did not happen for obvious some known reason. And of course, we are trying to rectify and then bring it, have a launch sometime in the middle of next year. Then also the corollary is that similar robotic mission for Mars also is on the anvil, and people are looking towards that. And of course, the human space mission is expected to happen maybe in another 1.5 years time. I think that throws open an ocean of opportunities in several areas. I want to tell you that the human space mission is the most difficult because humans are involved, and we need to make sure that the reliability, the human rating is done to the maximum hilt so that we don't face any kind of problem, because any mishap would really bring a very very bad name for the country. We don't want that to happen actually. And of course, also it is told that the corollary next step, I think Chairman ISRO has made a statement earlier that India also has to possibly move towards building our own space station and put it. If you really look at it, the kind of technologies that are required for each one of them are really, all of them are advanced, and we have to work full steam in each one of them. And also, as far as the vehicle capability is concerned, today we have GSLV Mark III biggest vehicle. That is not enough to cater to either to build a station or try to send a human to the moon. We need to build much much higher capacity launch vehicle, which demands again in every area of advanced technology, whether it's a propulsion, structure, manufacturing, host of other things. So we really look at it, and one side you say you have tremendous demand for this advanced mission, and another side you are saying that you are sort of training, enabling the industry. I don't see any reason why industry cannot become partner in many of these activities. What I mentioned may not happen tomorrow or day after, but then as the time progresses, I think they become equal players like ISRO, and once that level they reach, I think we also would like to utilize their services not only in building system, in the design, in the execution. I'm sure that this is what has happened in US, this is what happened in Europe, in many other advanced countries. I think it's a right time for us to think in that direction, and all these activities that we undertook in terms of creating the in-space, NSIL, or policies, they all sort of tending towards providing more and more opportunities for NGPs to participate not only in building but also even goal setting and roadmap building. Who knows that Just like SpaceX, there could be yet another industry who could parallelly think of programs. It's very difficult to sort of visualize today what would happen 10 years down the line or 15 years down the line, because the technology growth is really exponential. I'm sure that we will have very many exciting moments and opportunities for all of them, including NGPs.
Thank you, sir. It is highly encouraging to hear your views in different areas, right from the mentoring and growth of private sector to academia, as well as mission design and development. And it's really nice to see for people like ourselves who are actually on the outside working as researchers and technology development folks to get that encouragement from ISRO to work together as we move forward for space exploration. So with this, our time is come to a stop. So I would like to thank you once again for giving us your valuable time and speaking to us.
It's my pleasure interacting with you and also fielding answers for all the questions that you asked. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. So thank you, everybody, and we look forward to having more such interactions in the near future.
Thank you.